Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by the cheese man himself, Mr. Joey Ricotta. We're back for a little series recap here. Cubs did not get swept. They won a game. At least it's today, so that perks the mood of the show up just a little bit. Because if it was like Monday and then they lost 3 in a row, it'd be a very different vibe. But again, I am Ron Luce. He is Joey Ricotta. Joey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Ron. I'm good. Sitting here with a good old 95 calorie, 12 ounce, 4.2% alk, 2.6 gram carbs, next generation of light beer, the one and only America's oldest brewery, Yingling Flight. That was not sponsored, but it is now. Yeah, we need to still talk to them. But Ron, it's a metaphor. Because the flight, this team, after their win today, they are about to take flight. I wish that were true.
Oh, you got me all hyped for no reason. You can't.
I don't know. I'm trying to uplift us even more because, like you said, if they wouldn't have won today, it would have been even worse and still bad. So, but I'm good, man. How are you doing? I'm happy to be here. It's been a minute since I've been here and been talking to you, and yeah, I'm good.
It's always a pleasure to get back on the microphone with you, my friend. You're doing good, man. I'm doing good, all things considered. This baseball team can't ruin my mood this week. You and I talked a little bit about that off air because everybody at Cubs on Tap knows by now that I am GM Ron over on the Four Feathers podcast. It is NHL offseason. This is my favorite time of the year. This is when I geek and nerd out over numbers and player movement, and it's the greatest thing in the world. Tomorrow's the NHL draft. I'm super excited about that. Today is the award show. Connor Bedard is your Calder Trophy winner, as Rookie of the Year. I'm doing really well, dude. And free agency's on Monday. That is my Christmas morning. For anybody that doesn't know, Christmas morning, July 1st for Ron Luce, because it's NHL free agency opening. It's the greatest day of the year. There is so much shit that happens. If you like high-paced, just chaos, that's for you. It's one of the coolest days of the year for the number nerds like myself. My dad says, nice choice, Mr. Joseph, on the Yang Lang. But then Scott from Iowa says flight is trash. So that's neither here nor there.
Scott's just such a party pooper. I don't, and he's Mr. Positive about this team, it seems like. But yeah, I know. I don't know. I think it's a good choice. Sometimes it's a weird little aftertaste, I'll be honest. But yeah, Ron, you were definitely going into this kind of geeking out before we even hopped on here, breaking down the Blackhawks and stuff. And I'm getting a little bit more intrigued about what they can do because I'll be honest with you, last couple of years, man, I've been a little bit checked out. And even though Bedard's here now, so I'm kind of excited. I'm excited with the possibilities of what they can do. So
we love that.
Maybe next year or two, things really get cooking here.
Yeah, get it cooking, see what starts to happen. I love good hockey, as my dad says in the comments. I am a big kid on the 1st of July. It's great. It's a great day. Absolutely great day, Joey. Just like today, because the Cubs won a baseball game. Cubs win on Thursday, which is good old getaway day from San Francisco. It's a 5-3 winner in 10 innings. Ian Happ, my dinger pick, thank you very much, goes yard for a 2-run shot in the 10th. Hey, I'm coming for you and Juice. I was cold, but you know what? When the bats couldn't heat up, Ron Luce's dinger picks heated up. I am on the biggest bender of anybody on this podcast right now. I'm coming for y'all.
I was going to say, man, I don't think we don't see you.
The deficit.
I see you. I see you coming in the rearview mirror, and where you started from to where you're at. Truly impressive. So I think me and Juice need to start getting it going again here.
Our first correct dinger pick for Ron Luce didn't happen until almost the month of May.
Jesus Christ.
It was PCA's first career homer was my first correct dinger pick.
That was a nice one, though. That was a great call.
I've called some good ones. I've called some really good ones this year. We've hit some highs. We're doing okay. But I like where it's going. Nonetheless, Ian Happ, that puts him over double figures as well, Joey. That gives him 10 on the season. Good to see the Cubs get a win. Shota, Doesn't pick up the win in this one, but does throw a quality start. Goes 6 innings, gives up just the 3 earned to the Giants. However, Joey, as we briefly noted, the old Cubbies lost 3 out of 4. In case anybody forgot, all the late games, of course, are the ones they dropped. They lose a 1-run game on Wednesday night, 4-3 to these Giants. They get beat up a little bit. It wasn't really indicative of the game. There's a lot of late runs from the Giants. But Kyle Hendricks pitches a gem, but they still lose 5-1. And then it's a 5-4 loss, pardon me, on Monday night when the Cubs had a 4-0 lead, right? It feels like it's been forever. It was a 4-0 lead. Yeah. So that's just the definition of how this series went for the Cubbies. Joey, you know what is the most, I think, frustrating part of this whole thing for me? And I know people are just like, well, I just want the Cubs to be good, and that's why I'm frustrated. From a pure baseball standpoint of what this team has finally done after not being freaking able to do this since they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on it, the starting pitching has been incredible.
Right? Wasted.
Incredible. Wasted every single game. They almost wasted Shota's start today. And yeah, maybe Shota's come down to earth a little bit. That's okay. We all knew it was eventually going to happen. He's still pitching to the tune of a sub-3 ERA right now. He's doing good things continually. Justin Steele continues to lower his ERA. He looks like himself again, and he's taken that step forward. A lot of these games that maybe last year were those 6-inning games are like 7 1/3 or 7 now from Steele. He's pitching into the 8th inning. Like, that's huge right now for him. Tyone looks really good. Hendricks looks back in his last 2 starts. He's looked really good now. I'm telling you, as it gets warmer, the ball breaks more, and that's what Kyle Hendricks depends on. That's why he has slow starts, because he's all about the break and not about the speed. Dude, their veterans are finally stepping up and being the veterans. Obviously, it sucks that a lot of the youngsters have got hurt.
Yeah.
Hey, they're not getting the support from the bullpen on a consistent basis, if ever. The bats have been horribly inconsistent. At least they've been inconsistent and not just downright bad of recent. But it took a while for this offense to even sniff 5 to 6 runs more than one singular day, right? Putting together those stretches against that Giants series at Wrigley, where they at least put up 5 in 3 straight games. They just have not. The pieces are there, but nothing works at the same time. Everything's offbeat and off balance, and it's starting to drive me nuts, because your one cog that's doing well is your starting pitching, which for years was the Achilles heel of this team. That 2021 team fell apart because of the starting pitching.
Oh my God, if they had this starting pitching that year.
If they had this Cubs rotation, Joey, that team never gets broken up.
Never.
Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez never get traded. They probably go to the playoffs that year. And you never know. Maybe Ian Happ does still have the resurgence at the end of the season that he had and plays his way into helping this team win. And maybe they do kind of figure out. We don't know ever. But, and even like my dad says here, they didn't have this last year. If they had this last year, and they did to an extent, but it happened late, right? Because of all the early injuries and stuff. They've had it consistently since the start of the season. If you give that last year's team that's a playoff team that probably can do some damage when it gets down to it. I just want this team to play complete baseball, Joey, and it's driving me nuts, because it like you said, it's wasting some incredible starting pitching.
So frustrating, man. It's really frustrating. You hit the nail on the head. If this team had the starting pitching that it has this year, would you expect that this team would have the record that it does now coming into the year?
No.
Coming into the year, right? We were looking at this team, and I think Juice had sent it was a recording of it was our season preview kind of prediction show. Awful, number one, but number two, I mean, it was a great show. We had a lot of fun. You look back on that show now, and it's like, wow, what fucking idiots the 5 of us are, right? We are just absolutely dumb. And on paper, one of our biggest concerns, I think it was kind of as a collective, at least, a few of us voiced our concern. And I feel like there was not one person that thought, oh, I feel super confident in it. And that was the starting pitching. And then now you look at this team now, and we're almost in July, and the only strength that you can confidently say that this team has, the one place where they are super strong and have been throughout the whole season, is the starting pitching. So I mean, it's just it's a flip of everything, because the defense was supposed to be a number one, like a top strength of this team, which in parts it's starting to show. The defense is getting better in certain areas. Dansby's had a really nice stretch here. You got PC out in center showing his value, along with Nico at second. But that was supposed to be throughout, constant. The hitting. No one thought that this team would be as inconsistent with hitting. And I think, to me, Ron, the thing that sticks out, at least one thing, there's multiple things that stick out here to me, but at least one thing is there's no one guy that is taken off this year, and just played above his norm or to his peak. Like not any of them are doing that. So when that happens, it's like, as a collective unit, now you're starting to see some of these guys have pretty good stretches. I mean, Michael Bush, Hap hasn't been too bad. Like, Sayas hit the ball really hard lately, and he's gotten hits. He just hasn't gotten the big extra base hits and homers until, he recently now. But there's a lot of that going on. Nico Horner hitting under 250, 240 for some parts of this season until recently, right? So, and now he's starting to hit the ball hard. Dansby's starting to hit the ball hard. It's just not coming through in those clutch moments. Still, we're still kind of seeing it a little bit, even today, right? Bellinger with guys on base in the seventh, strikes out, pitch down the middle. The next thing, I think it might have been Seiya, strikeout with guys on base. And I think they had a really good opportunity. It was a couple guys on with no outs in that eighth inning, I believe. And so it's this continually keeps happening over and over again. And I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves for what we're talking about here, but it's just very frustrating when you're getting that damn good of starting pitching. I can't say that enough, because it's not just one guy. And like you said, even Kyle Hendricks, the last couple times out, ever since that outing where he came in really early out of the bullpen and he just kind of cruised and had a really nice outing out of the bullpen, he's been damn good. And even pitching, into the seventh or eighth inning, whatever it was last time. I mean, if you would have told us that a month ago, or even 2-3 weeks ago, who would have thought that, right? And you're right. I think there's something about him the slow starts. And if you notice, Ron, he's throwing that curveball a
lot.
He's starting to really throw. That's a change that's interesting to me.
It looks good. And look, can we talk about that for a second? Because I think that's very applicable to this series, right? We're here to do a series recap. Sure, we're not going to put the cart ahead of the horse here, people. But Kyle Hendricks does look like a different pitcher right now, and that curveball has been working. And you know what? It's something that I will give credit where it's due. That was a Miguel Amaya adjustment, according to Hendricks. He said, Miggy told me he wants me to throw my curveball more, especially on, for first pitch strikes and things like that. If he can sneak those in there and keep guys off balance a little more, because he just shows it enough. It's whoa, you can throw that. And it's consistent, right? He's like, hey man, yours is good enough where even if they're not getting, not getting strikeouts on it all the time, at least it's keeping them off balance. That makes your changeup even deadlier.
And it's a pitch that, to me, it's also a pitch that just does something different than the rest of his arsenal, because he has that kind of, not that he can't move his fastball going away from righties, he can kind of cut it. Same thing with the changeup. I've seen him cut that changeup to the left as well, at least, or
yes, I have seen him do that cut changeup. It's kind of a sick pitch.
It's pretty nasty, but traditionally when you look at Hendricks, and we've watched him for years, it's that two-seamer sinker that kind of starts at the left-handed batter and comes over the corner, or that movement style horizontally. Same thing with the changeup. It kind of has that same kind of angle and movement, but it's just the speed differentiation from those two pitches and the location. And one thing wasn't there earlier in the season, or both of them weren't there. It was also the movement and the location, both were not there. But I think just that little wrinkle of that curveball that he just kind of tosses in there, like you said, it's just a different pitch that just throws a wrinkle into everything, that it's cutting the other way, and it's also off speed. Like, it's just different. I don't think teams they're not prepared for it, at least in this stage of Kyle Hendricks' career. Like, how often was he throwing that curveball all these seasons? Now he's got 10 years of service time. Like, that's not on his scouting report, right? Like, that's not.
Yeah.
Props to him though. Yeah.
It's awesome to see a little bit of his credit. Here's a little bit of his kind of resurgence here. I was actually just checking if my next game that I have tickets to was going to be a Hendricks start. It's not, and I'm very sad now. I think it's going to be a Wes Nesky start. So I might sell. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But,
hey, don't talk shit about Wes. No, I get it.
I want to get back to a Kyle Hendricks start. Hits different. Like, they're always fun. I thought, and you know what was fun? That's my memory of the 2016 team. Like, you know how everybody was always like, oh, Lester and Arrieta. I didn't see Arrieta pitch for the Cubs live until he came back in 21. I never saw an Arrieta start. It just never happened. I saw one. It took me until either 18 or 19 to see Lester. And then, but dude, that 16 year, I think every start but one that I went to was either Jason Hamill or Kyle Hendricks.
That's awesome.
So that's my 16 memory when it comes to starting pitching, is the back end guys that, threw kind of funky stuff and kind of were similar pitchers in a lot of ways. Like, dude, so like for me, like everybody, like when everybody says like, oh, the Hendricks, like 16 was a Hendricks year. Like, yeah, for me it was, because like I saw a ton of Kyle Hendricks baseball in 2015, 2016, like 2017, just all the Kyle Hendricks all the time when things were going here. But
it's funny you say that too, Ron. Like my brother-in-law, and I don't remember. I don't remember the group we went with or whatnot, but we went to a game. I think it was 2016, and I think I only went to one game that year, which sucks now that I look back on it. I wish I would have went to so many more games, but it was before I really could do that often. I just couldn't. And the one game I went to was a Kyle Hendricks start. And I remember talking to him before the game started, and I was like, the one guy I want to see pitch, the one guy I've wanted to see pitch, like in person. And I loved Arrieta too, all those guys. Like, don't get me wrong, just like you said, was Kyle Hendricks, because it's a different animal. Like, you just appreciate the professionalism from Kyle Hendricks. So yeah, I'm with you with the memories. Like, he's a guy now that we can confidently say, like, he's a Cubs legend. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Not just because of that season, but the test of time, man. He's been around. He's been there.
Speaking of Kyle Hendricks and the Cubs legend, because I think this is something I actually want to talk about. In my humble opinion, Kyle Hendricks, of any pitcher from that 2016 team, needs to be the first one in the Cubs Hall of Fame. Because, and here's why. Why.
Yeah.
Because he's a Cub lifer. There was a graphic, and I'm digging in to find this because I need to express this. It came down to it was Hendricks and, like, here it is. Players in Cubs history that played 10 plus seasons for the Cubs and not for any other franchise in baseball, not an other NL team or AL team, nothing, just for the Cubs. 10 years, 10 plus seasons in a Cubs uniform. Cap Anson, 1876 to 1897, played 22 years with the Cubs. That's the highest number.
Crazy.
1932 to 1947, Stan Hack played 16 consecutive seasons for the Chicago Cubs. 1953 to 1971, Mr. Cub played 19 seasons for the Cubs, the great Ernie Banks. And 2014 to present, Kyle Hendricks, 11 seasons with the Chicago Cubs. That's the list. That's it.
Love it.
He's the only He's the only like true starting pitcher that has played 10 plus seasons in uniform. He is truly a Cubs legend. Like even Sutcliffe and Maddox and Jenkins all played with other teams and played long careers. So like, yeah, they had a big window in Chicago. Kyle Hendricks is a lifer. Kyle Hendricks is one of us because he's been one of us. Because he's been with this team for truly his baseball life.
Yeah,
right?
he doesn't
Like,
know any other organization, really.
outside of Texas,
Than the
but he was a
trade, but-
minor leaguer. Yeah, but he was a minor leaguer, right? So, like, his big league experience is nowhere else but Wrigley Field and the Chicago Cubs. And I think that's pretty cool. Joey, before we continue down our rabbit hole here, I do want to get to some of the comments. A great lively comment section here tonight. This is from Brandon B a little bit earlier. He's live from Guatemala, says what's up.
That's fucking awesome, dude. If I was in Guatemala, sorry, fuck you guys. I'm not even tuning in. Brandon, you are awesome for that.
An absolute legend indeed. Scott from Iowa, it's almost July. Steele doesn't have a win on the season yet. That's tragedy. Scott, we're coming back to that one. That's absolute tragedy. Cubs are lifeless. He's over. Council says Brandon. Milwaukee's gonna be awful. Yes, it is. We'll talk about that later. Bullpen is terrible. Any team running out guys like Brewer and Hodge. Hodge was fine though today. Actually, I'm not mad about Hodge.
We should talk about that later.
We will talk about that. That was from my dad a little bit earlier. Don't understand how Jed has survived all the run of losses. Scott says, remember the start pitching was the biggest concerns, the good times. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Matthew says Jed is failing and he shouldn't be. Decibel 85 decibel moments says not coming through the clutch moments, way too many one-run games. I agree. And that's like the whole reason they brought Craig in was for one-run games. And they it's a mess. Kyle is looking good. David says, so much blown save, 17. Yeah, really brutal not having a true closer. I agree. The hashtag Fire Willie trending, says Scott. Matthew said Kyle and Jake were the shit. Even their shit hitters, we would still be over 500 if Jed got a real closer. Yeah, you know what? David's on to something here. And that's, I think, an overarching thing. Kyle, like Maddox, too. Yeah. How many years was Grace? I think Grace played like 8 years. I think he just missed 10. He was like 8 or 9.
He was close.
He was 8 or 9. He was pretty up there, I think. Maybe Hodge could be that closer if he could throw strikes. Took Council three months to find a closer. Yeah. And then Hendricks as a closer, better choice than Smiley. Yeah, but now they need Hendricks to start now, and he's been good there in that role. Smiley's only a piggyback guy now.
Especially with Javier Assad getting hurt now or IL.
Yeah. Yes. So let's incorporate all of this mess here because this is our way of knocking out all the news, people. Yeah. This is just our way of knocking out the news since our last show. Now you're down another start. Like these young starting pitchers are all hurt. Brown on the IL, Wicks on the IL, Assad now on the IL. It's your vets that you have to rely on in this rotation. It's your workhorse, Steele. Hendricks needs to be kind of a pseudo workhorse, and he kind of has been in his last 2 starts. You know, Tayo needs to be that workhorse, which I think he has been. He's been really nice this year. I love what Jambo's putting together.
Yeah, he's been good.
And I mean, even Shota coming back down to earth has still been really good baseball. Like if they hadn't, it's true. Like we sit here and bitch about the offense, but like, yo, if you can just close out a simple ball game. Even if you blow, let's call it 5 saves, what's a 12-game difference for this team right now?
Maybe, yeah, it's big.
At least, maybe a game back in the division at worst?
The quick math is not mathing in my head right now, but it's...
Yeah, I can't do the quick math here. I got to pull up the record really quick. Let me do that here. Let's math some math. 38 and 44 is their record, Joey. So 38, if I add 12 wins to that, that's 50 wins. They're 100% leading the division. So even if you get half of those games, you're still within a handful of games of the Brewers. It really has been a difference maker, even with this offense not being consistent right now and not putting up a ton of runs. I think tinfoil hat take that David gave me here. The reason Craig Counsell is failing right now as a manager is because he doesn't have the elite bullpen like he did in Milwaukee. He can win you games with just pitching. Even if the hitting's bad, but he needs a good bullpen, and they don't have that right now. And I think that's why he's struggling.
I don't disagree with any of that. There could be a lot of truth in that, and I like that you guys are on that kind of thinking. But my thing is with this whole thing, if that's the case, is he really as good of a manager as we thought he was? Because if you remember too, I said this in the preview show or when we first got him, and I said, I don't remember what the segment we were doing was. I said, show me. You're the best manager in baseball. You're supposed to be one of the best managers in baseball. Show me, though. I don't want the season starts. Everything else starts over. You start fresh. And I know you're on a new team. You got to learn the team. You don't have the best roster. 100% understandable, including the bullpen, right? The bullpen has been absolute trash. No matter who you throw out there, he doesn't have anyone. But if he needs a lockdown guy or someone, I think all good teams need a lockdown guy at the back end. So it doesn't matter how really good of a manager you are. But I still think that when you're in this many one-run games, you should be able to play matchups or be able to figure out which pitcher is best suited for that moment, that game, depending on off-field stuff and how they're feeling. Like, kind of weed that out. I don't think they should have blown this many games. So I'll just say that no matter how many guys are struggling in that bullpen. But the other part of that too is, and we'll circle back around to this whole bullpen thing. But the other part of that too is they're playing stupid fucking baseball. Stupid.
They really are.
Like on the base paths, man, like Morel getting thrown out at first, like, extra secondary lead, getting back picked at first by the catcher the other night. Then Ian Happ and whoever else was at the time trying to do a double steal. Looked like the guy on first didn't even pick up the sign because he took off way late. I don't know what that was. Delayed steal. Looked like he wasn't even stealing. Ian Happ was stealing. And if the scouting on the Giants was that good, like the broadcast was picking up that night, they just scouted that out perfectly. And he had a long delivery, so they knew that Counsell likes to steal in that situation, and he ended up going with the pickoff, and they got Ian Happ. There's 2 outs. It's late in the game. It's a 1-run game. You're already in scoring position. I understand the thought process of trying to get 2 guys in scoring position if a base hit takes the lead in that situation. But in this situation, a base hit ties the game, which is probably more important than taking the lead when you're kind of in desperation mode when we've lost all these freaking games. So don't be stupid. And if another team can pick up on your tendencies that much with 2 outs in that situation and call a pickoff play while you're calling a steal or a double steal play, the only reason why that situation ever works is because you catch teams off guard who aren't expecting you to do that. Now, if the other teams are picking up that you're doing that all the time, all of a sudden you're not catching anyone off guard, and it's a stupid freaking – you should never try that anyways, normally. So I'm just – and I'm using that as an example, but there's a lot of just dumb baseball and base running and guys almost colliding into each other. What do we see at the end of this game between Bodie and Porter Hodge almost colliding, which was probably Porter Hodge's fault.
Also,
get out of the way. But yeah, I don't know. I'm done, Ron.
Can we just quickly Seiya Suzuki needs to understand, I know he wants the ball, but like your center fielder gets final say. That's why he's out there.
He's excellent.
Yes.
So
PCA is not going to drop that, I promise. Like, you know what it is. You know what it's getting to. And I think Suzuki's still a better fielder overall. But, like, PCA is so good, too, where it's just like, dude, it's the, like, Lubob and Eloy fucking stepping in front of him to catch the ball thing. Like, just let him. Just let him do it. You don't have to. You're here to hit. You're not here to play fucking defense. Like, just hit, brother. You hit and you let PCA cover from fucking literally from each of the distance markers on the wall. God. That's PCA's territory.
He's like, so fast, too.
You play the line and everything else, and you're good. You don't need to do that. That's the PCA advantage. And, Scott, that was great. I'm the man moment for PCA. It is. He's getting there. Like, the bat's going to find a way. I'm confident that he's actually going to be able to develop. And maybe this is finally where we're going to see this team have some developed talent that like truly is consistent and maybe a star, right? He's electric on the base paths. He's so fun to watch.
Oh my God, he's a menace.
Scoring from first base on
On a
an innocent single, yeah, an innocent single. But like, dude, if he learns just how to get on base consistently, he doesn't even need to always get hits. Just get on base, brother. Get on base. Find ways to get on base. You are the ultimate Moneyball player because you're fast as fuck. And you have upside to be a plus, player, right? Like, remember the kid from Oakland that led the league in stolen bags every year? And, like, he was an okay fielder. PCA is a gold glove outfielder who has more offensive upside as well. Like, but that's what he's there for. Say, let the man play defense. You see, cover the line. That's all you need to do.
Did you see the other night too? I think it was last night. There was a play in left field with Hap over there, and Hap was right there, and then PCA just comes over. Hap's just like, "Yeah, you got it." PCA is like, "Yep." Like Hap gave way to PCA, and Hap was already like, I mean, he could have easily made the catch, but he's like, "Oh no, PCA is calling me off," and PCA's like, "I'm a Gold Glover. He's a gold Glover." Like that's what that felt like to me. So
do you ever think there's a chance? I've got a couple of really like brain bending questions for you here to kind of eventually take us out of this thing here, and they all relate to everything that we talked about tonight. We will have to touch on obviously the upcoming Milwaukee series before we get out of this thing. But PCA 15 stolen bags. It's been great. Do you think that PCA being such a good outfielder right now in the center field, do you think that gives an Ian Happ and maybe even a Seiya Suzuki a chance to like, I'm going to get stronger and I might not be able to move as fast, but I'm going to fucking muscle baseballs out of the ballpark as they age, especially as they age, right? You see guys put on that dad strength almost, where like, I don't run as well as I used to, but like I can still smack a baseball, if that's all those guys are, great. And Hap's still going to be, I think, a good defender, right? But, like, America's ass has gotten bigger over the last couple of years. Homeboy's in the weight room squatting and because he's trying to be a little more of a slugger. He slugged more last year for the first time than we had seen him forever. Sure, they're not always home runs, but he's hitting a shit ton of doubles too. Like, he's getting on base. He's delivering in those situations where he's started to kind of find himself, I think, in that 5-hole largely for this team right now. He's been a pretty consistent cog at that spot.
We saw the homer today too.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I just had to bring that up again. I know you did not forget that being your pick.
No, I did not. I did not forget that at all. Joey, I have another brain bending question for you here. And it comes, I had it in mind, our friend David Snyder here tees it up perfectly. He says, everyone's feeling sorry for David Ross is hilarious. He says, our hitters were way better last year. Ross had no magic to make the Cubs hitters good. Council did not make the hitters suck. They did that themselves. Joey, I ask you, would this team have a better or worse record with David Ross as manager?
I'm going to say better because they got dumber.
Ooh.
I'm not going to say.
Which I didn't think was possible.
No, I mean, seriously, though, I'm not impressed so far from what I've seen with Council, and it's not because I think he's a bad manager. I don't think he's a bad manager. I think he's a really good manager. You don't get the praise around the league and be able to get the Brewers in position to win this many games when they're not projected to, especially the one-run games, over the course of how long he was able to do it there without being a good manager. He's a very good manager, I will say that. Has he been a good manager here? That's all I care about this season. No. Because they've actively gotten dumber. And that's where I was going to circle back around with the conversation. Those are things that were supposed to be corrected. We actively ran ourselves not out of outs at times last year, the last couple of years. And the defense was better last year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So far,
the defense was a lot better last year.
I mean, to me, that's on coaching. Like the hitting is the hitting. You don't have the horses in the stable, and you also haven't had guys rolling fully to their capabilities yet. You've had some bad luck. Like, to me, this team is the perfect combination of add good talent or decent talent, bad baseball, and shitty luck. Like, it's the perfect combination of every single game. That's what it feels like. And so I won't put all of it on Council by any means. And I won't say that Ross would have had a huge impact as like, does this team have a winning record? I don't know. But I would say yes, they're probably a better team at this point in the season. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it'd be about the same. I think there's still enough deficiencies on this team that they're just finding different ways to lose this year, right? Like that's all it is.
Yeah.
They're still finding ways to lose though. So I think it would probably be pretty similar. I truly do believe, though, the best version of this team involves an influx of some of these prospects. And I know there's a lot of prospect talk here in the comment section, which kind of tees that up. David says, hat power hitter, funny. Yeah, but, dude, I mean, if you're a 400-plus slugger, like, you have power in today's MLB. The baseball change made a big difference to the power hitting. Like, it's the elite guys and then everybody else. Like, there's not that high floor.
They're down
anymore, right,
a little bit now, yeah.
Yeah, and OPS, like hitting in general, is down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was.
Cubs don't even have a guy at 800 right now. I don't think
it's brutal,
which is
sad. They had a couple of them last year. Scott here says, bring up Owen Casey to play left field almost as fast as PCA. Say I will only need to cover 100 feet in right field, but then but it's like where do you play Hap? My dad says the same thing. Why not bring up Shaw for third, Canadian Red for Happy spot? Where are you going to play Hap? You can't DH him every day. Yeah. He's still a good baseball player. Ian Happ's one of your best hitters right now.
He's still a fine left fielder. Let's not.
He's fine.
Yeah,
I would rather bring up Owen Casey and just DH him. Shaw's not ready this year. Shaw's just finally starting to heat up at Double-A. I'd say leave him down for the year. No need to rush kids. Rushing kids to the major leagues is exactly when teams screw shit up. Don't do that.
There are guys who we are pining for in the minors, like Shaw and Triantos, me being one of them. There's guys that we really want to see. Ballesteros, who he might even be knocking. Who knows?
The dude hits the shit out of the baseball. Like that, all that dude does is hit.
He just he's raking at AAA now, and he's barely been there. But you're right, Ron. Like we get a little bit excited early for guys to get called up, and there might be some other guys who are actually just a little bit closer to the call up who have spent enough time at the levels and have already gotten some experience. Like I think Canario is a perfect example of that. It's like, where do you play him? And he's gotten experience and he's had success at AAA this year. And, so we're just going to skip over him and go directly to Matt Shaw, who hasn't even had that good of a season yet. He's
starting to get there.
I
got some numbers for you. I saw them today, but please continue.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Do you want to call up a guy who's just getting hot, or do you want to call up a guy who's like truly proven himself at the level he's at yet, and kind of could be really close to being developed? And maybe Owen Casey is there too. I don't know, but I don't want to rush guys by any means, just because of the struggles of whatever your team is. But at some point, we get so frustrated watching these games that it's like, try something, try anything. I don't care. So can somebody down in the minors hit with runners in scoring position? Like somebody has to be ready down there. Somebody.
Yeah. Try everything, Joe. Just like the Shakira song. Try everything. No, I'm right there with you. Quickly on Shaw, because I completely agree with everything you had to say. May 19th, he was at his lowest point in terms of average, which was a 208 in Tennessee. It was 208, 344, 328 was his slash line. He was getting on base at a decent clip. His slug was really down and his average was down. He now has worked all the way back up to, drum roll please, a 251 average, 361 on base, 428 slug with a 789 OPS. And that's in 68 games in Tennessee. 10 home runs, 35 runs driven in, 40 walks. He's K'd 59 times, walked 19 times. and he's been caught stealing 5 times, but has 19 stolen bags. So leave him down there.
Love those numbers that you just something caught my attention in the comments, and I apologize. Matt Shaw raking, and I love that you just pulled up those numbers. Pull up Scott's comment right now.
This newest one?
You're not DFAing Michael Bush. Sorry,
they're
Scott.
not DFAing Bush.
He's got one of the highest OPSs on this team. He's actually been hitting outside of, the power numbers might not be as what he went on that real hot stretch where he had, what was it, like 5 homers in 5 games in a row.
5 and 5. Yeah, it was 5 and 5.
But dude, you're not DFAing.
You can't.
No.
You physically can't. Alcantara needs time down too, because he was super, super young and still is super, super young. You don't want to rush youth, especially super youth. Like Shaw's a little different because he was a college player, but like Alcantara signed at 18. Like he's still young, so there's no need to rush those guys. And Michael Bush is good. I love Michael Bush. I'm so
young too.
Bush. Yeah, he is still really young. I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize with Michael Bush. Michael Bush is just starting to come into his own. Like the Cubs got in on him early, in my opinion. I think
he's still growing. I think
next year is a huge year for Michael Bush. And I'm not saying he's going to be the superstar of this team, but he might be a really nice, first base DH. Maybe he does play a little second. Dare I say, like a little bit of a Brendan Lau in Tampa, but a little more on base and a little less slug. That's kind of what Michael Bush's team would be. And that's what he becomes. That's a win for that trade. That's a win. That's absolutely a win, especially if Yency gets healthy and starts to throw again.
I might have a little hot take here, Ron.
Bush needs to stay there. What is your hot take, Joey? Please tell me.
I'm tempted to say something I don't want to say.
Oh no, I don't know what that means.
It's not bad. It's going to be bad because people are going to hate it. Nico Horner has been absolutely raking here the last few games, at least hitting the ball hard, right? And actually got some lift on the ball today, which was nice. Got the home run, 2-run homer. So I realize saying this at this moment might sound awful, but if he were to continue the stretch that he was on and get great Gold Glover, right? We know what kind of second baseman he is. He's got the speed. He's got the intangibles. The lack of patience at the plate and just swinging and making weak contact does not fly with me. For second base, I know defense is important. But that to me was also a major hole offensively for a lot of the season.
Yeah.
And to me, it's going to sound crazy, but it really reminded me a lot of like a Darwin Barney.
That's the name I had in my head. I was going to ask you, I was going to say, so this just is Nico going to eventually become this generation's Darwin Barney?
Well, if that's the case, he's not on this team when they get really good.
No, and
like a Starlin Castro too, except better glove than Starlin and all that.
Better glove than Starlin, but Starlin could hit.
Yeah.
Starlin was a 300 hitter routinely with the Cubs. Like Starlin could hit. He wasn't that great of a glover, but at second you could mask that.
He was better at second. It seemed like,
yeah, he was much better at second than he was at short. And he did exactly what you wanted him to do, right? He actually hit. I think Juice has some diabolical takes when he says them initially, but they've tended to age very well because he brought up during the offseason, he says, I don't think Nico Horner is here by the time the end of that next contract he gets. He's not going to see that through in Chicago. And I'm like, that would be crazy. But think about it. Matt Shaw is more likely to come up and play second at this point, in my opinion, than he is to come up and play third. Triantos, same way. Like, that second base position could be important to this Cubs team because they have a lot of guys that can play there. You're not going to supplant Dansby unless you move Dansby to short when maybe a Jefferson Rojas is ready, but that's probably 5 years down the road.
I'll be honest, though. I like the potential, and it's all potential, understandably. Nico's proven to be a top average type of hitter. But his on base usually is not the greatest. It's okay. But if he's I like the potential of those hitters much more than I see. I don't think the ceiling for Nico Horner is ever going to get there. Like, unless you're elite, unless you're the Padres, Luis Ariz, as far as like your contact ability and batting average, and I understandably no one is, right? But unless you're like that consistency level, 300 plus,
Yeah.
290 plus all the time, then to me, like a Gold Glover is only like it's helping the pitching staff, but I don't know.
You're not helping the lineup.
You're not helping as much. So
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that. That could be somewhere down the line that they trade or something. Wait for him to get hot and kind of move him.
Yeah, it could happen. Just really quick here, Joey, to sum this up. Over his last 7 games, Nico Horner 296, 406, 407 slash line. But in his last 30, only a 226, 311, 283. So he's gotten hot very recently, but largely agree with you. He's been underperforming in terms of what they expect him to do with the bat. Joey, we do still have to get to a Brewers series. So with that in mind, I am going to ask you any quick final thoughts on the Giants series as a whole.
Glad it's over.
Ain't that the damn truth? I'm right there with you. To those in the comments that have put up great comments tonight, first off, shout out to you guys. Awesome sauce. We love that. Secondly, we're going to need like an off day show at some point where we can just ramble for like 3 hours. Yeah. Maybe the next watch along. We're going to tee up some of these comments, especially from tonight's show. I think for our next watch along, we will get back to them probably after the 4th of July holiday.
I won't be able to join you guys the week right after 4th of July, but count me in on the next one.
Deal. We'll start to get back on them. I think for the stretch run here because I think we need it for our sanity too. Even though
I know, man, they're so fun,
pitiful when it comes down to it, and it's all said and done. Joey, the next 3 games are in the just wretched city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Friday night's pitching matchup is Jameson Taillon versus Colin Rea. It's a 7:10 start on the Marquee Sports Network. Saturday, it's a 3:10 start. It'll be Steele versus Myers. That should be a good game. Steele looking for his first win of the season, as Scott noted a little bit earlier. Scott, we love you, buddy. He says, because he'll pick Mastro and Wisdom. Don't come at me with that heat.
I wasn't trying to come at you, Scott. I just hated the idea of Michael Busch not being a part of the plan.
I respect that. So that is Saturday's matchup. And then Sunday, it's a 1:10 start in Milwaukee. It'll be Kyle Hendricks against Freddie Peralta. So that is your weekend series. They are off then on Monday the 1st. Tuesday the 2nd, they start a 3-game set with the Phillies at Wrigley Field for the holiday. So they are playing here at Wrigley on the 4th of July. Pretty cool for those that decide they want to go to the game. And then they have 3 with the Angels over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, also at Wrigley. Great time to get out to Wrigley this week if you're looking to go to games. Fun fact, I actually have some tickets for Tuesday that I might be willing to part ways with. If anybody's interested, let me know on the old socials.
I got to talk to you after this.
Okay, we'll talk about that then. Joey.
No, I don't want those tickets. I was just saying.
Fair.
Scott's been drinking.
I saw that.
I love your dad, dude.
What the hell do the Cubs need to do to get a W? I feel like this part we feel like broken records, but like, what can they do to get this thing going in the right direction, especially against Milwaukee?
Smart, fundamental baseball. Hit with runners in scoring positions. A home run or two a game. A home run or two a game in that ballpark, not hard to do. Get it done. Pitch, back end specifically. Somebody step up. And we were talking earlier about Porter Hodge being possibly the closer. I like it, man. I didn't understand them sending him down in the first place. He looked good when he was here the last time. So I don't know if he's the closer moving forward. Have they found their guy for the whole season? My guess is probably not. But if Porter Hodge wants to step up and do it, do it. I think you're going to have to get the starting pitching still cooking too. That's a given. But the way the rotations looked, I do feel better about it going into any series. Smart baseball, hit the ball over the fence and with runners in scoring position and lock it down, baby. Somehow find a way to close out games. Those are my 3 keys to the series, Ron.
I like it. I'm right there with you, man. Just start playing good baseball. You can do it. We've seen it. It's happened. Just go do it. Just get it done, especially against a team like Milwaukee where you can start to make up some ground on this division if you have a hope and a prayer to be in it and want to be buyers at the upcoming deadline. As Scott notes here, 28 games until the trade deadline. He thinks the Cubs left to win 16 to 18, or they will be selling, is Scott's take. Joey, before we get out of here, I want to remind everybody, Cubs on Tap, one of 2 podcasts covering the Chicago Cubs. Follow our friends over at the Dingers podcast. Check their show out. They were live Tuesday night. 3 of the 4 once again on that good old broadcast on Tuesday night. Go check that out. On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button. You guys know the drill. At Dinger Cubs on the socials. We are at Cubs on Tap, or Cubbies on Tap, pardon me. On the socials, Loose on Tap, Joey Knows Nothing, Juice on Tap, Nick _ on Tap, Teddy Ready 70, Silent Bob _2. You guys know the drill. Oh, and our friend Rob Wegley is back for the summer, writing with us on the Cubs side of the house. He'll be doing a lot of prospect content, so be on the lookout for that. He's already written a couple things for us here to start off the season. He is, I believe, still at Bulls Guy Rob, unless he's changed that on me, but I think that is still his social handle. Blackhawks, Bulls, Bears. Bulls already doing a bunch of crazy nonsense. Drafted Matas Buzelis in the NBA draft yesterday in the first round. Chicago native coming home to play for the Bulls. NHL offseason's in full effect. Go follow GM Ron. And I have a PhD in salary cap geography, according to Tony Marchese. So be sure to follow along with that over the course of the next 10 days or so, probably even longer into that. And then Bears, guys, it's just warm-up season now until training camp gets here, and it's going to be fun in the fall here for On Tap Sportsnet and the Bears On Tap guys. OnTapSportsnet.com. At On Tap Sportsnet on the socials, the On Tap Sportsnet. We're going to check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Yes, we have White Sox coverage as well. Send your friends to our friends, and we know the drill. They can all be friends. Joey, it's always a pleasure, my friend. This was a great show. More that we'll need to put on the docket for an upcoming watch-along to discuss and actively talk about during the game. Until then, Joey, my friend, happy weekend to you, and let's get out here the only way we know how, my friend.
Ron, you have a PhD in hockeynomics. I got a PhD in Yingling. Fuck the Cardinals, especially this weekend. Fuck the Brewers. Let's go Cubs.
Let's go Cubs, baby.